Hi, this is Joanna and welcome to my very first video for the LOI stamps. Today I'm creating a shaker card and I'm starting out with a standard size card base and a card front that I cut slightly smaller, and I just round the corners with my corner jumper. And then I'm going to do some inking on the front piece, and I don't have a craft mat, so I just use a slick surface and then I press down my ink pads onto it and it works just as fine. And I have a mini mister filled with water and I just spritz it a couple of times. And then I press the colors together, and the reason that I do that is because I don't use watercolor paper today. I'm using Neenah Solar White, and normally you can, if you have a watercolor paper, you can spritz directly onto the watercolor paper to even out the colors. But I can't do that on Neenah Solar White, so that's why I'm mixing the colors together a little bit on the slick surface. And I used another mini mister here that was filled with Perfect Pearls and water, so the background would get a subtle shimmer. And then I'm just keep adding colors and water until I'm satisfied with the result. So I'm just picking up the color. And here I'm using the two of the lightest shades. And I'm just going about it the same way. I'm adding some colors and I'm helping the colors to mix a little bit first. And then I'm pressing down my paper, picking up the colors. And there are some white spaces on this piece as well, but that's intended. I will show you later how I will fix it. And then I use my heat gun to speed up the drying process. And then I use the lightest shade of distress ink to ink up the edges and also ink up the white spaces. And then it will get, this looks really cool in real life. So I get a lot of texture. So I hope that you can see the shimmer also on the video. And here I'm planning out my card. And I'm using this really cute fish from the LOI stamp. And I'm using a speech bubble as the shaker area. So I'm just bringing it over to my die cut machine. And this also flatten out the card because it did get warp. When I heat dried it, and also from the water, so that's perfect if you're doing some die cut. And here I'm stamping my cute fish, and I'm stamping him in Memento ink because I'm going to do some Copic coloring. And I sped up the coloring portion quite a bit here, so I hope so I won't get bored. And but I'm going about it. I'm just shading it, so I go from light to dark, and then from dark to light. And then I'm using the dot technique, so I'm taking some different types of Copics, and I'm just adding dots, and I think that gives him texture, and it fits for fishes and reptiles and dragons, I think. And I also use my colorless blender to remove some. And now it's time to cut this fish out, and I'm trying to cut as close as I can to the stamped edge. And when he's all cut out, I'm using a black brush tip marker to paint the edges, and then it looks like he's being cut out perfectly, and trust me, he wasn't, so that makes him look even cuter. And now it's time to create the shaker window. And I'm using some red tape to do that, and this is a really strong adhesive, so it's perfect if you're doing things like this. And the acetate is actually recycled. It's from an old packaging. I think it was from an embossing folder package. So, but this is my last piece. So now I have to buy more acetate or I have to buy more craft supplies. So, tough decision, isn't it? Well, anyway, here I'm just adhering the acetate onto the card front. And I'm using some foam tape to create the shaker area. So it will be raised, so it will fit my micro beads. And somewhere here I realized that I have totally forgot about the sentiment. And I'm using this I Miss Your Face from the Alloy stamps, More Than Words. And I think it goes perfect with the fish. But it would have been much easier to stamp this before I had adhered the acetate. But this works just as fine. I'm just using the negative die cut and a pencil to trace around the edges, so I know where to stamp my sentiment. And I'm using Versafine Onyx Black and my Fiskars stamp press. And then I just go over it with my fingers, so I will get an even impression. And I dried it with my heat tool to dry the ink so it doesn't smear when I erase the pencil lines. And now it's time to create the shaker area. And I'm using some micro beads from Martha Stewart. And the colors that I'm using are clear, and the green is called Feldspar. I don't know how you pronounce it, but I think you pronounce it like that. And then I'm using blue Topaz. So, and if you're not careful, these little beads will go everywhere. So I'm trying to be quite careful when I pour them out. But I do want to escape, so you have to be careful. And now it's time to adhere the front piece. And I always struggle with this because I want it straight, and I think it's hard to see. So normally I think it's easier if I tilt the card, so I do it from the side. But and this works. But the micro beads, of course, moved. So, and then also a good tip, if you are making a card like this with micro beads, you have to press down the foam tape really good because the micro beads are so tiny, so they will escape underneath the foam tape otherwise. And now it's time to stamp the little fish. So there's some the light portion of the fish. So I stamp that in Versafine Onyx Black. And then I adhere my little fish, and I'm using a two-way C glue pen to do that. And then I just use an acrylic block to put over him so he will stay in place. And as a final touch, I use my white gel pen to draw some faux stitching lines around the card. And then the card is done. So I hope that you liked this video and that you got inspired to make something your own. And all the information and supplies are listed in the YouTube description down below, so just head over there if you are interested. And thank you so much for watching, and see you soon. Bye!